So I think we are starting now. It's time. Thank you everyone for coming today. I'm Eduardo Suarez. I'm the head of editorial at the Reuters Institute. In case you don't know, the Reuters Institute is an organization at the University of Oxford, and our mission is to explore the future of journalism worldwide. So this is what we are going to do today. The reason for this panel is that we see lots of stories in news publications about the success of the New York Times and the Guardian and the FT and many other really good newspapers published in English. But we don't read so many stories about many other publications around the world that are also successful with reader revenue models. There are some that are not in the room today, and I would like to acknowledge them, like Malaysia Kini in Malaysia, for example, really successful news organization, Animal Político in Mexico, La Silla Vacía in Colombia, Efecto Cocuyo in Venezuela, many people around the world that are actually succeeding with reader revenue models, either membership or subscriptions. But we are really lucky today to have in the room three talented editors or news managers, news leaders that are succeeding in their own countries. It's three European countries, very different context, Denmark, Slovakia, Spain. It's not easy in any of those countries. According to the Digital News Report, small percentages say that are paying for news in those countries, like 16% in Denmark, 13% in Slovakia, 12% in Spain. So this is not an easy context, and yet all of them are succeeding. They are leading profitable news organizations, impactful news organizations, and that's what we are going to be talking about today. Hopefully their example is inspiring for you, and you can take some ideas maybe and try them in your own countries. So I'm going to introduce the speakers. To my right is Tomas Bella. He is the founder and also the head of digital at Dennik N. Dennik N is a Slovakian news organization. Just so you know, they have 73,000 subscribers, and this is super impressive, especially in Slovakia, which is a very small country. So this is more or less like 2% of the adult population in Slovakia are actually subscribers of Dennik N. And they are profitable. I mean, they have like 6 million euros in revenue and 1.3 million in profit. So really impressive. Thank you for coming, Thomas.
Hello.
Well, to Tomas' right is Rosalia Lloret. Rosalia is a very good friend of mine. She's the CEO of elDiario.es. elDiario is a digital-born news organization in Spain, again, profitable, very successful. They have 63,000 paying members. They have a very open model, very similar to The Guardian, also with a couple of tweaks that she will speak about. And they had like 2.2 million profit last year, probably even more this year. So again, very successful news organization, and they publish scoops, investigations. It's a really interesting model. Thank you for coming, Rosalia. And to Rosalia's right is Lea Korsgaard. We did a similar panel actually a couple of years ago in this very room. She's the publisher and the founder of Zetland, which is an online magazine based in Denmark. And again, I mean, very successful news organization. 28,000 paying members, and they broke even like 4 years after they were founded. Thank you for coming. Okay, so I'm going to ask you a few questions, about different aspects of reader revenue models, because obviously there are very different countries, different news organizations have different models. But I would like to, start with the basics, and I would like to ask you first, Thomas. I mean, why did you launch Dennik N, and why do you think it succeeded? Because sometimes it has to do also with the political moment or the media moment in the country. What was your story in that sense?
Yeah, so the story was very simple. We were a group of journalists who worked for the biggest broadsheet newspaper in Slovakia, and almost 8 years ago, the broadsheet was bought by an oligarch who was connected with the biggest corruption scandal in the country. So basically that's a group of journalists, about half of the newsroom said that we are not willing to work for that guy and we will establish a new paper, which sounds easy. So, so we actually established a print paper as well, but about 95% of the business is online. And we really, because we were worried that we will not get any advertisement, we really focused really like single-mindedly on the online revenue, on online reader revenue. So we do have some ads and we are doing books and we have some grants, but really like 2/3 of the revenue is from subscriptions. And we chose like a very hard paywall model because we didn't really have, we thought we have so many people, like started with 40 people. We only really had like a couple of months of runway, I would say. So we needed to get a lot of subscribers very quickly to actually survive. And on the other hand, we were able to focus on what we wanted to do, so really like a highest quality journalism, like really the most, in other words, like the most expensive kind of journalism, and somehow it worked. So I believe that at the beginning, people were mostly supporting the story, so people were supporting the nice emotional story of brave people leaving the oligarch and fighting on their own, but that of course will probably not last long. So then we were able to offer probably the product that people wanted to read. So that's the story in a nutshell.
It's really interesting because actually elDiario in Spain has a very similar story in the sense that it was also founded by journalists who basically were working for another publication and it was kind of closed. I don't know, and also, I mean, the fact of elDiario, it was really brave at the time because it was founded in 2012 in the middle of a financial crisis in Spain with 30% of unemployment, very bad economic situation, but they were really brave, and actually there was no other news organization in Spain at the time that had a reader revenue model, right, Rosalia?
No, not at all. Actually, they haven't done it until 1 or 2 years ago, so we were the very first. And of course, we are the children of that situation. We were born, as Eduardo said, just after or even during, because it was continuing the financial crisis. So it was a very special moment because there was a kind of a complaint, a lack of trust in the establishment in general, and also about the establishment media, the legacy media. They were considered part of the establishment, and also because all this legacy media, because of the financial crisis, they were all seriously indebted, and sometimes they even had to put the debtors into the capital. So there was a lack of trust in all this media. So when elDiario was born, this group of journalists decided to create a model that could sustain the independent journalism that they wanted to do. They actually wanted to have the not depend on advertising revenues and not suffer the volatility and the possible pressures from corporations or from institutions that this brave type of journalism, investigative journalism, that they wanted to do in elDiario. And yeah, that was 10 years ago. It is actually our 10th anniversary, and we have grown a lot. And our model has so much to do with this kind of conversation we began from the very beginning with our community to be able to raise our revenues, which, as you said, is a model which is similar to the Guardian. Indeed, it was before. They got some inspiration, and actually they told us they got some inspiration from elDiario too. It is membership, so there is no paywall. You can always access the information of elDiario, but you pay to support the type of journalism we do. And the difference with the Guardian is that all the members are recurring members, so they pay every month or every year, and actually most of them, 80% are yearly or bi-yearly, so it's these long-standing members. And now we have begun to kind of push them a little bit harder because, as I say, there's no paywall, but at least we are trying to identify the most loyal users with a meter. So the ones that hit the 10 pages per month, we kind of put a kind of a pop-up, well, kind of a page saying, hey, please become a member. This is very important for us. This is the way you can sustain what we do. And but they can still get member for €0. So It is very much what we wanted from the beginning, which is not to stop anyone to access our information, even if they had a very bad economic situation. But yeah, we are trying to push them a bit harder.
Yes, and you still have like 20,000 people who are members. They are not paying, but you still have their emails and you have some kind of relationship with them, which is also interesting,
Exactly,
right?
exactly.
So Lea, I mean, your publication is a bit different because, you know, these guys here are more like the newspapers, they publish scoops, investigations, hard news. And obviously, you know, Zetland is more like a magazine. So I'm curious, you know, why do you think that it was so successful with a product that is, you know, not so much focused on news?
Yeah, so it's a magazine, but it's also flow radio, and it's also a newspaper. So it's kind of a mix in between those more classic products. So the story is that we launched in 2016 and wanted to give an alternative to, you know, the endless stream of information that's out there. We really thought that, you know, at the time where journalism was invented, the problem that people had was a lack of information. Now today it's the opposite. It's the information overload that is the problem for many people. So we wanted to give a product that publish only a few stories every day. So there's a morning brief, 2 feature stories, and an in-depth news podcast-ish product in the afternoon, and that's it. So it has kind of a finishable feature to it. You can in principle consume everything that we do during a day. So that is, and I think that really resonated with a lot of, especially young. We have a lot of young members. 50% of our members are below the age of 35, and I really think that we fulfill this need. You know, if you follow what we do, you will not be bombarded with information, but you will be able to follow the conversations that your friends and family have about what's going on in the news, and you will always also sometimes lead the conversation. You know, being able to say, okay, but this is interesting, but I heard this at Zetland. So I think it's really the reason why we succeeded is probably 2 things mostly. One is really understanding this need. We're here not we would like to, you know, make a difference in society and in democracy, but we're mostly here to fulfill this need that a lot of people have, and being really sort of precise and accurate about how to fulfill that need. So that's one thing. And the other thing is creating that community, like you also talked about, Rosalina, creating a community around our media, and constantly reaching out to our community and the users and ask them for help, for their perspectives, their views, their ideas, and also really trying to understand how we can make a difference in their lives, not only today, but also in a year. So constantly developing the product so it meets their needs.
How do you manage to basically contact them and, you know, reach them for ideas? Is that something that you do through email? Do you do like meetings with them? Maybe not during the pandemic, but, you know, tell me more about that.
Yeah, it's a good question. So in our app, we're mostly an app product, and you can that's also a thing that is important to mention, that you can read everything that we do, but you can also listen to it. Sure. So that depends on what you choose. But in our app, you know, you can see our articles, but sometimes there will pop up a note, more like a note format, with a journalist saying, "So I'm the new political editor. Please get in touch with me and tell me what you think of political coverage." And let's have a Zoom meeting where I will meet you, and you will tell me what you think about political coverage in general. So that's just one example. We can also use, you know, surveys. What kind of questions is lingering in your head around the war in Ukraine, or in the morning mail that comes out every day with the stories of the day. we also use that to say, you know, please remember to reach out if you know something about that, for instance. Also, when you are a member of Zetland, you are asked to fill in a form and tell us what you know stuff about. If you're a doctor, if you're a nurse, or if you know something about knitting, or whatever, you know, because then we are able to reach out to you if we are doing a story on the specific things that you know something about.
That's super, super interesting. Thomas, I want to ask you, because you said before that your paywall is kind of hard paywall, right? And I think that's an interesting example, especially in this panel. Why did you go for that? And how hard was it, especially after the first few subscribers, I guess, because you know many people maybe at the beginning subscribe, but I guess that at some point you hit some kind of plateau, and you'll have to be brave, right, and stick to your guns to maintain such a hard paywall, maybe. I don't know.
Well, we hit a plateau a couple of times, but frankly, we have no idea when it happens, and we have no idea when it starts to grow again. You know, so we thought from the beginning. I think the plan was that we wanted to have about 15 to 20,000 subscribers, and then we had 20. We thought, okay, now probably there will be no more growth, and it still happens again. But we have no idea why. So. But the important part of the strategy is that we are doing basically two things. Even if you look at the website, you will see like two parts. So one is we do long or relatively long pieces which are all paid, and there is always a hard paywall. There is some kind of sampling, so there is not like a metered paywall, but quite often you can read, because the articles are long, quite often you can read quite a few paragraphs before you hit the paywall. And actually, of course, the most depressing statistics in any newsroom is that if you want to look at, which the reporters can look at, like how many people, what percentage of people actually hit the paywall, like how many of them dropped after first paragraph, second paragraph, and so on. And of course, then you look at the end and you see, okay, 7% of the people actually read the whole article. So that's always very depressing, but but it's normal. But that's kind of for generating revenue. And on the other hand, we are also doing like fast news, breaking news service, which is we think very, very good. And that actually brings traffic to the website, and that helps us to have like significant traffic, which is coming there for the free part, and the free part is constantly linking. It's linking to other news from other sources, so it's like a one-stop shop for all the news, and it's also linking to our big stories where you actually are hitting the paywall. So it's kind of the balance, and also it's important to say that once we made the decision of we have to have the hard paywall, because otherwise such expensive journalism cannot exist in our country. That's what we thought, that's what we still think. But once you say that and once you keep that idea, then you can kind of like secretly start to make a lot of like secret holes in the system, you know? So we are not blind to the problem of access to the information, right? So of course, so for example, if people are coming from Google and not from not directly to our site, so we are not asking them to pay €8, but we are asking them to pay €1, because we know that they are far removed from our core audience and so on. So we have actually, in 7 years, until now, we had 400 different pricing levels for the subscription, you know, which is way too many. I don't recommend that, but because it's too, yeah. So don't do that. And we also do, for example, our by far most popular feature is if you are paying €9 per month, you can unlock the articles for your friends. And this is generating, a lot of people are paying the higher price because they want to be kind of like opinion leaders in their community. So they are unlocking the articles and putting it on Facebook and saying, you can all read because you are my friends, you can read it for free. And a lot of people are actually accessing articles this way. So they are not really paying, but if there's something like some really, really important news, then they can get access to it because they will ask a friend. Of course, they are asking on our Facebook page, like, please, can someone unlock the article for us? And people do that, and we delete them sometimes. So then we are thinking a lot about, okay, how do people from less advanced, less rich regions can access for low price, and so on. You know, so once you have the core strategy, then you can try to see, okay, what are the problems of this strategy, and address those problems as like a small problems, but not without changing the strategy.
Yeah, so very interesting. I mean, that you experiment so much, right, with pricing, which is something that is difficult, as you say, but is also recommendable, obviously. Rosalia, actually, you had also the problem of hitting a plateau for some times in elDiario, but I think it's really interesting that you tell the story of what happened at the start of the pandemic, where you were actually hitting a plateau and you were in almost an existential threat. But then suddenly you shoot up to, from 30,000 members to 60,000 members, something like that. What happened?
Yeah, wow, that was quite amazing. The thing is, as I mentioned, the type of...
I think you have to...
I'm sorry. The kind of revenue model we have is a membership where you don't have to, I mean, this is, you don't access any wall. Everybody can enter our website for free. Everybody can access our information. So it was kind of this big bunch of people that in the very beginning wanted to support us, but after every time we have like a big pike, and it was after one of our high-profile investigations, we had like a high profile just before a big spike after just before the pandemic, and then just at the beginning of the pandemic we were plateauing. So in the pandemic, when the pandemic began, we were really worried because we were having this moment of in our membership growth, which was plateauing, as I was saying, and at the same time, you probably remember the beginning of the pandemic was kind of a slowdown of advertising revenues as well. So we got really scared about as you mentioned, it was like an existential threat. And we decided for the first time to increase the price of our membership to all members. So we sent a letter, actually it was the editor-in-chief, sent a letter to all members saying, hey, I know it's not the best time, but for us it's very important. We, information is more important than ever. Now we are living through fake news that at the beginning of the pandemic were quite strong, by the way. We need the newsroom more than ever, and for that we need your help. We need to ask you for the first time for a little rise in the price of the membership, only for €2, and if you cannot do it, you can stay in the price you had before. So when the people received this letter, this mail from the editor-in-chief, 98% of them said yes, of course, we want to go to the new price, but this letter was published as well. And then we got 20,000, in only 2 months, we got 20,000 new members joining in because, they all, and actually most of them also sent letters to us and were quite emotional. They were saying, hey, I always read you, it is my favorite paper, I cannot live without you, but I hadn't taken the step of becoming a member, but I mean, the only thing I would like to avoid is you guys disappearing from my life. So it's so important for me. I want to become a member. And yes, as you said, 20,000 new members in only 2 months during the pandemic. And just after the pandemic, the year after, again, after this spike, we were beginning to plateau again. That's why we decided to introduce this new meter to be a kind of a bit more pushy with our readers, because one of the things we learned from this moment of the pandemic in these letters, in these mails sent by our readers, is that many times the readers don't know very well about your economic situation. They probably think you have enough with the advertising you have in your website, they have a lot of money coming from advertising, you have enough members, but they don't think you can be at risk. And when they know it, they definitely go after you if they are loyal readers, of course, and we do have a lot. Actually, now we have hit near 1 million readers per day, which is quite a lot, and then, well, the members, they are now in this level, as Eduardo said, this 63,000, and now our challenge is to see how we can grow more, but we can talk about that later.
I think what you just said is really important to stress. You know, according to the Digital News Report last year, like 30% of people actually think that the news media are doing better than 10 years ago. 30% of people. So I think you know, it's really important in a news organization to stress to the readers these kinds of things, that we really need the money, basically. So it's good that you said that. By the way, I mean, think about the questions. We cannot, any questions that you have, we cannot pass the microphone or whatever, but at the end, you know, I'll get questions from the audience, and I'll probably repeat them when you shout those at me or something like that, so just think about that. Lea, I would like to ask you a bit about, you know, COVID and how it was for you guys, you know, the pandemic. Do you think that made the news organization, your news organization, more efficient? I know that you were doing like live events before, and obviously that may have to stop. How was the whole situation for you guys at Zetland?
Well, first of all, I just want to touch upon something that you said, Rosalina, that I just think it's so important. Just the notion that you have to constantly remind not only the newsroom but also everyone paying for you, why is it that you're here? We cannot take for granted that people know what is the need of journalism, and just the sheer fact that it costs a lot of money to produce is important to stress. Anyways, so COVID, well, I'm from Denmark. So I think the situation was a bit different than in most countries. Luckily for us, because we came just simply, it was easier. The situation was easier. But still, there was a period in time where everyone was back home, and I think probably everyone in here can relate to, you know, just sitting there behind the screen. And while that happening, members were just pouring in, which also we were not the only ones who saw that, and I thought that was so uplifting. Now, and we saw the same with the war last month, you know, that in a time where there's really need for journalism, luckily the message got through that we had something to offer.
And
for them.
Did you change like the message, you know, the call to action when asking
no,
for
actually
membership?
Not. Also because we already had the right message in place. You know, if you want solid information, if you want the overview, if you want to know what's going on without having to you know, sort through endless streams of information, then we have the product for you. So that was perfect. No, and then before COVID, we had a lot of live events going on, as you said, Eduardo. And for us, it was interesting to take those live events and put them on the screen. And now we're planning on trying to integrate it in the app, actually, so that live element, to keep that live element and make it part of the product. Yeah, we didn't figure out yet how to do it, but that's just one of the things that we learned from the pandemic.
And Lea said before, you know, about the app, that they are like an app-focused product. I don't know, Thomas, if you have the same experience, or you are more like web-based, or how do you think about the difference between people coming to the app, or maybe you don't have an app? I mean, how do you think about that?
We actually, when we started, we had 4 different apps, which again is the thing I absolutely don't recommend everyone to repeat. And now we are down to 2, which is still strange and it's very expensive, but it comes down to back to the strategy of, we have 2 apps and they are defined by basically where you are when you are using them, you know. So we have one fast breaking news app, which is defined by, I'm standing at the bus stop and I have 15 seconds before my bus arrives, so I can, you know, look at the phone, and there is this fast news app, and I can spend those 50 seconds, I know what's going on. And then there is another one, and this one is free and it brings a lot of new readers. And the second one is, okay, I'm lying in my bed and I shouldn't be reading before the sleeping, but I have my tablet, and I have a lot of time now to read something longer, and that's a completely different experience and completely different app, and only for paid readers and so on. So, and we found this like very useful in definition of by defining this, what is the situation in which the user actually is, and building in around this experience, even when it's actually then twice more expensive to have that.
That's really interesting. I mean, thinking about user needs and having like different products for every need. Rosalia, I mean, your news organization is the one here that has some more money coming from advertising. It's like 50% or so. And I'm not sure if that like introduces like tensions, for example, in when you allocate resources or on the things that you cover, or because obviously the guys at Zetland have like 90%, right, coming from readers. That's a clear focus. And in the case of elDiario, you have to combine a little bit of both, right? How do you manage to do that?
Well, the idea of the membership program is precisely that we don't have these tensions. So because having that much money, 50% of our revenue is coming from the members. I mean, every single advertiser is a tiny amount compared to that. So we don't have such tensions with advertisers. Of course, as probably any other journalist in the room, if you are writing something about an institution or about a company that doesn't like, they will call you. But yeah, I mean, we try to do the best journalism possible. We try to reach out to all the possible sources to get the proper story, and that's it. And I think that is a very, very important. But regarding also the different formats for the different situations, which I thought it is very interesting, and also related to what Lea said about finishable type of formats, which I agree with her. They are so important now also for this overload of information we live in. I think we actually are also having a lot of success with two formats that seem to be very old, but they are not old anymore, which are the newsletter, the daily newsletter we have, and a very special author type newsletter, and a podcast done by the same person, which is one of the co-founders of elDiario. And I think the two of them have this precisely this sense of kind of choosing just the most important part of the news of the day, and trying to kind of come up with something very personal, with a very strong voice, with the podcast, with this intimacy that gives the podcast a new voice compared to the radio, for example. And they have been very successful with the newsletter. We have already 100,000 subscribers, and the opening rate is 50%, which is really high. And the podcast, we just began. I mean, it was only September. We were crazy enough to begin with podcasts with a daily one, which is crazy, I can tell you. And once you begin, you cannot stop, of course. And we already have 15,000 listeners every day, which is, I think, pretty good, being kind of a completely new thing for us. And I think it's because people also like this sort of summary of what is happening, because you have so many things coming in from different points.
And I think it was Lea who said before, the fact that something is finishable, that has a beginning and has an end. I think that's something that readers actually appreciate. And also, what both products have in common, newsletters and podcasts, is that actually they create habit in readers.
Yeah.
And I want to ask Tomas and Lea, I mean, how much you think about habit when actually trying to engage with readers and prevent churn, basically, they basically cancel their subscription or their membership.
Yeah, I think that is so important. So thank you for that question. So to begin with, Zetland was just 2 or 3 feature stories a day in text, and it came out every morning at 5. So actually, it was only published one time a day, but it still didn't build habits. So 2 things that really changed for us and helped people build habits around the product was one that was audio. As I said before, that when every article also comes out in an audio format, it makes it much easier to build habits around it, because you can just plug in your earphones and listen to a story on your way to work or college or whatever you do. And we really turned out to be a commuter media. We can see that every morning and every afternoon the spikes are there. So that's one thing. The other thing that really meant something for habit building was the morning brief that comes out every morning. It's just 7 hours. It's not 7 hours. 7 minutes.
That
Super
would be
brief.
a hell of a PDF.
Really finishable. It's only 7 minutes, and it's actually kind of old school in its format. You know, just the headlines of today, but told in a very personal, narrated way. And the other thing is our version of the daily from New York Times, like you touch upon in the afternoon. Again, I know the format. It's there every day. That lowers the barrier a lot. Yeah.
What about Dennik N? Thomas, how do you think about habit? What do you know about the habits of your readers?
Well, I think it's very simple. So if there is no habit, there is no reader revenue. Like people will only pay for something where they are used to using it regularly. You know, so we are trying, as everyone else is trying. For example, our most successful format is something called News Filter, and it really like discovered very accidentally. Basically, one guy started to write like a daily summary. It was not in the morning like everyone is doing, but evening, something like 8 o'clock in the evening, and like 3 main. Like commented summary of the day with like 3 main events and the picture and something like that. And it became extremely popular, so popular that like even we also publish it on the website, but some people are just reading only this and nothing else. So then we started to, basically we tried to just repeat the success, so like how far we can take it, right? So we started second news filter called business news filter, which was morning just with the business news. Then we started a sports news filter. Then we started foreign news and so on. Of course, you keep doing it until you realize you have taken it too far. You know, like you have already squeezed everything from the idea that you could. One of the obvious things there is that it works extremely well if it's a daily. Yeah. It's much harder to do a weekly if you are a daily. You know, I'm sure there are many like weekly successful newsletters like on something on Substack and so on. Where sometimes if you don't have so much content, you can do it successfully. In our case, okay, the daily ones work, but it's a lot of work. And another thing is that we realize, okay, what we will do with the information that a lot of people even stop coming to our website. They are just reading this in email. And that was the moment where it was great to understand, okay, we are focused on reader revenue and we actually care about the user experience. If we were in ad business, this would be a problem because people are not visiting our website and there's only so much that you can put in newsletters. But we are in the habit business, in the reader revenue business. So this is actually perfect. Like they get the information they want. They don't even have to go to the website. So let's like frame it as this is an advantage. Like it saves you so much time. You will only read email. You don't even have to visit that on the website, and it's great because you will keep paying. You know. So then if you know what is the focus is the reader gets what he wants as fast as possible, then you can actually start putting all the text inside and so on, and you don't have to worry about generating page views and so on.
I just love that expression that we're in the habit business. You know, that was also what the old school newspaper was. Sure. It was a habit. It was there every morning at 8, and I think it was Hegel who said, you know, that reading the newspaper is democracy's morning prayer. It's something that we do every day at the same time, and when digital hit the newspaper industry, we just forgot that we were in the habit business. But it's just so important.
No, it's totally true, and you know, I think recently we knew about the publisher of the New York Times thinking about the front page of the newspaper as like 4 different front pages, like the morning newsletter, the daily podcast, you know, the website, the homepage on the website, and also the print newsletter. And I think it's because of habit, as you said. So
yeah, but that also means it's very important to really understand the moments of the day that you can tip into or use. You know, what kind of content fits for what time of the day.
Totally. I mean, and speaking of which, actually, I mean, I think there's something at elDiario that is very innovative, and that has been for a long time, and it's the Telegram channel that you guys have. I know that you want to talk about that, but I mean, you were in Telegram much before it was fashionable, let's say.
Yeah, because we thought it was a kind of and because it was
Your microphone. Yeah.
elDiario was a bit younger than other media sites in Spain, or media properties in general, and there was kind of this group of people, very big group, after the Indignados movement in Spain, that was very strong in Telegram as well, and because Telegram allows something that WhatsApp doesn't allow, which is to have a list of people that can subscribe to a new service. We began with that, and we already have, I don't know the last number, by the way, but I think it's 60,000 subscribers in Telegram. We offer them a very, it's similar to the newsletter, kind of is a selection of news in the morning, in the afternoon, and then at night, and maybe one alert if there is something very important along the day. But it is, very curated list of 3-4 news each moment of the day, and I think it's been a way to kind of approach our readers very, very much, and habit is absolutely essential. Indeed, there are some studies, I don't remember if it was the Reuters Institute or any other, but people that use in a daily basis newsletters, they are 4 or 5 times more prone to become subscribers or members than people that just go to the website, and it's happening with the podcast as well. So and with this Telegram service.
Yeah, we are going to go into questions very, very soon. So think about your question, but I want to have like a very quick round, and you know, I'm sure that you all have stories about this. But can you tell me about something that you tried regarding river revenue or news products or things like that that didn't actually work, and why?
Yeah. How much time do you have?
Go for it.
Yeah, so I think 2 things. To begin with, we tried somewhat classic marketing. We did TV ads, and because we were in a state of panic, you know, we had to grow. So TV ads, you know, the usual commercials on railway stations and stuff like that, and it worked to some extent, but it was also kind of counterintuitive to who we were, you know, trying to say, you need focus in your life in a 30-second TV ad. It's really difficult. And also, we tried to keep it going, but it didn't really work. And so, you know, and I really think it was because it didn't resonate with who we were. And in the end, we found it out, like you did, Rosalia, that you know, we had to just ask our members, we need your help. You are the ones who can make sure that we exist also tomorrow. So that really changed everything.
I think you've talked once about actually the power of word of mouth, right?
Yeah,
like,
so instead of building our marketing strategy around the classic tools, we now have a marketing strategy around word of mouth, and being super strategic about how do we help our members to help us grow, in a sense. So that's one thing. The other thing is, I think every time we publish something that is not extraordinary, that's in a sense a mistake, because in this space you have to really be exceptional. Exceptional is what works, and if you're not exceptional, then don't publish. So yeah, you know, this happens not on a daily basis, because then we wouldn't exist, but every time it happens, it's against the promise, actually.
Rosalia, what's your failure?
Video. Actually, we wanted last year to go beyond the breaking news video, and we tried many things. We tried to create videos, you know, a series of videos, and do things a bit maybe softer as one, and kind of stories, planers, even comedy. We don't know. I mean, of course, there were some of them that were very popular, but I mean, it's in general. I mean, it didn't pay off. So we don't know how to do video. I mean, apart from breaking news, of course, and those videos, they really have success. And if I can add another one, I mean, we don't know what they had to do with things like TikTok. This is something. TikTok,
oh,
yeah.
Okay,
this is very.
Tell me when you know.
We haven't got it yet. So if you had ideas, Thomas.
What about you? What about you, Thomas?
No, I have also no idea about TikTok. I will tell one example. So we tried repeatedly and failed repeatedly in the local news. So we thought, okay, we have to try local news because we are very focused on national politics and we have to try something first in the second biggest Slovak city. We hired one guy, okay, like let's see how it goes and we will hire more. It was complete failure, like it was a couple of years ago, and we just couldn't find a way how to distribute it, like how to get this to those people actually living there. And also that one guy living there was like clearly unhappy, just sitting alone in the office and, and being alone in the city. So we shut it down. We tried second time, couple of times later. So we hired like a small team in a different town, like 2 or 3 people. And again, it failed for a completely different reason. So we shut it down again. And now the third thing we tried is that we said, okay, now this doesn't work if there are only very few people. So let's do something completely opposite. Let's move the whole newsroom to a different town. So what we did is that we actually picked, like our readers helped us pick 7 different cities around the country. And we moved, not every single person, but we rented offices there, we rented Airbnbs, and we moved editor-in-chief and deputies and reporters there for 2 weeks. And for 2 weeks they were doing events there, they were living there, we asked the prime minister and the ministers to come for debates and so on. And many times they have never visited those cities before, like small cities. And it was very good in terms of like local people seemed to be like very grateful that we did this for them, that we came there and we brought all those politicians and suddenly they could ask them directly. And we did all kinds of stories from local politics to what you should see if you come to the region and so on. And also the hope is that also the reporters like collected a lot of the contacts that they can keep using later, you know, when they come back from after those 2 weeks. Nice. And we also connected with that with the subscription promotion. So it was interesting because all the country was reading about that city for 2 weeks, you know. So even our paper, the first paper we published was only articles from this one small city, you know. So even if you are in the capital, you open the paper and there were only articles from this one small city. And we also had, if you lived in this small area, you could buy a subscription for 1 year for only €1, you know, so it was like very symbolic price. So even like people from the poorer regions get access and so on. And we still have no data about like retention of those people. So what will happen after 1 year, like if they really decide to subscribe. But in terms of like response, it was very positive. In terms of how we can scale it up, we don't know yet, like how many of those we can do. We do this through COVID, so it was like in quite insane way to have meetings during COVID. But at least like that's at least not like obvious failure as the previous ones, but actually the response was good. So we are thinking how to like keep doing it in some form.
I really love it. I think it's a great idea, like journalism as traveling circus or something like that. So it's great. So any questions from the audience? Okay, one there. Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, so the question is, when we have so little content to offer every day, how is it possible to choose? Or as a member, you cannot really choose so we kind of force the content upon our members. And thank you for that question, and thank you for calling me Mrs. Korsgaard. That happens way too not that often, but I really like that. Anyway. So yeah, this is a good and interesting point, and right now we only have a sort of a chronological way of showing our content. So when you get on the app in the morning, you just see the most recent stories on top, and for some, especially for those who use our content every day, that's a great user experience, because then they can just see what's there and choose if they actually want to consume us this day. But if you're a more casual user or prefer to only use our content once a week, then it's not a good user experience. So we're now in the process of rebuilding the app, so you can either choose the chronological version or to in what we call a Netflix mode, where we showcase the best content that we have that you haven't consumed yet. And I think that's going to be a much better user experience for those kind of members. Yeah.
It's kind of like a classic TV broadcast. You turn on and you know what you're going to see.
Yeah, exactly. So today, actually, our app is kind of a flow TV. You just press the and also we have an autoplay function, so that when you press play and listen to the first story, it just keeps on going. That's why I say we're in effect a flow radio station today. But and that is a great experience for some. But also it's not sure that it's the most extraordinary story that is on top. And we want to make sure that you actually get that most extraordinary story used. So I'm really looking forward to this new feature because important.
Great. Milica.
I have two questions, if you have time. First one is, Rosalia said that there are others who started the membership model 1 or 2 years ago. And I want to ask you, does it make it difficult for you to continue the successful work? And the other one is, how do you measure failure? How do you know it's a failure?
So the questions are for Rosalia, or at least, so it's basically in Spain, most of the news organizations started subscriptions or membership a couple of years ago, 1 year ago. Does it make it more difficult for elDiario to grow?
Well, thank you for the question because it's real good. Actually, I don't know how to answer you. I mean, it is good and bad at the same time. It is good on the one hand, especially at the beginning, it was very good because it was not only the elDiario who was asking for money. So in a way, we felt that for all news readers, it was becoming normal, and habit that to pay for the news they like. So that's very good. The bad part of it is that, especially over the last months, it has become kind of the number of subscribers is begun to be like a vanity metrics, and it seems that everybody's kind of fighting and racing to kind of get bigger numbers, and so they are coming with super discounts and that we never did, and they put us in a complicated position because we don't want to do that because we think our journalism is different and we don't have to do sales and etc. So it is difficult to answer. In a way it's good, in a way it's bad if they continue with this race.
And the second question was, how do you measure failure? I guess any of you can answer that, or...
Well, that's a really good question. I think it depends on your metrics for success, right? So, so being really sure, or establishing those metrics for success before you launch a new product or before you go into something new is really important. But also to sometimes just listen to your gut feeling. I'm a strong believer in advanced gut feeling.
Thomas, would you like to take a stab at that? Or?
I would say that we are really bad at setting the KPIs and stuff. Like we are also very often just do stuff that because someone wants to do it, so let's do it. So I would say the failure is when no one is enthusiastic about the result, then it's kind of failed. If there's someone that says, okay, this is great, let's keep doing it, then probably we will keep doing it because someone is enthusiastic, and that's already halfway to success. But when there's no more enthusiasm, then it's probably better to shut it down.
Any other questions? Yes.
Yeah, so for example, at the beginning we were 40 people and 40 were journalists, so we didn't have a single one. Wow. So then we had to name one, you are a journalist and now you will be the CEO, you are a journalist and now you will be the head of online and so on, because we didn't have anyone else. And now it's, in Slovakia we have 100 people there are 80 journalists roughly, 10 software developers, and 10 is everything else. So management, books, help desk, everything else. So we are very, even when we are hiring, when we went from 40 to 80, we like hiring journalists and we hate hiring everyone else. Again, maybe like too much, but so we are trying to keep everything else lean, and we are trying to just keep hiring journalists, because in the content business, you hire a new guy covering a new topic, it will bring the revenue, because and the software is the second core competence, because that helps us to set up all the funnels and so on, and everything else we try to outsource or actually not have it. That's the strategy. May be strange, but.
Well, our numbers are very similar. In our case, it's more or less 20% of people that is non-journalist. All the rest, we are around 100 people in Madrid and 200 people if we take into account all our local editions and the one we have in Argentina. And yes, it is only 20% are other stuff.
So we are 40 all in all in total, and I think around 25 of them is on the editorial side. Then comes the engagement team, as we call them, which is marketing and engagement and outreach to the community. But they are also journalists and content producers. We really learned from the thing I told you about before, about when we did the classical marketing. Instead of using tons of money on some ad company, then just take that money and hire a great content producer. And then we have a team of now 6 or 7 on the tech side, and are really trying to keep a very transparent and open culture where everyone really enhances the product, even though the journalists are to say to the tech guys, hey, let's develop that feature, and the tech guys are to say to the journalists, I were really bored yesterday when I read your article, for instance.
Any other question? If there is no other question, I have a last question for you guys. And it's, what is the problem that you are facing now, the main strategic problem for each publication? What are the things that, you are working on that keeps you more worried in the next, for the next few months?
I will say a strange thing, like my main worry now is like the exhaustion of journalists. Really everyone was, because the spike of the traffic that we all had and so on, like people really were motivated to keep working through the pandemic, like much more than they should have had. And then now finally we were going to rest finally, and the war came. So that's really like, I have no idea what the effect will be, and we were trying all kind of things. We are trying to give more vacation and force people to actually take vacation and stuff but it doesn't work very well. So I'm really worried about this. So luckily we are lucky that we can worry about things like this and not about survival. But that's really, I don't know, I think only in long term we will actually see how bad this is, because a lot of journalists really went through hell last two years. We will see what will happen with them, and we hope we can survive this in terms of keeping the team together and hopefully happy and so on.
Yeah, it's been so hectic, not just the pandemic, now the war and so on. So yeah. What about you, Rosalia?
Our main challenge now is the growth in members. I think it is very important if we want to keep our promise of not stopping anyone to access our information. If we want to maintain our contents, at least our information, open for everybody, it's harder and harder. So we are trying new ways of increasing the habits, as we were saying. We are also trying to be a bit more subtle and sophisticated in identifying the people that could be willing to become members. We are now working on propensity models to identify people that could be loyal even if they don't hit the 10 pages per month, which can be the case because we are offering other types and other channels for accessing our content, like the newsletters or the podcast. So we are trying to identify these users in a different way. And and we will try to find out which other benefits we can offer our members without, again, stopping anyone to the access to our information, which is our promise.
Yeah. Lea.
For us, it's impact. If we continue our growth rate, then we could likely become the biggest paid-for digital newspaper in Denmark in just a few years from now, which is you know. So which is great, but it also leads us to the question, so what's next? And we are thinking about the possibility of taking Zetland abroad to other countries. So if anyone among the audience would like to become a media entrepreneur in their home country, please let us know, because we need the talented people that could make that dream come true.
That's super interesting. And actually, I mean, we here elDiario has an edition in Argentina. You have an edition of sorts in Czech Republic. So that's something that other people are also doing. Well, thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure, and I learned a lot. So I'm sure that the audience learned a lot too. And please give a hand to these wonderful panelists.